Hey there, Sam here with you. It's Monday, the 4th of March, and by request here, we're going to take a look at icon to the US dollar tether. I'm here on Binance. Now, if you're not familiar with this project, it's an interesting project. I have no relationship with this site here. I just like the way they organize their data. Coin Checkup, if you've not done some due diligence or don't understand what this project is about, this is a good place to do a little digging, do some fundamental research, and understand the project. Fairly good scoring on their algorithmic ranking, and here's something you don't see very often. We haven't seen for quite some time, and they've got a buy recommendation on it. Take a look at why here. So it's pretty clear five-wave structure. Interestingly, how beautiful that one wave was. So we'd have an extension in the fifth, and it would appear that we've ended up with a double bottom down here if indeed the low is in. So there's some technical trading going on in here. Which I'm going to guess that the majority of my members have already spotted this, which is why they're curious here. So let's go down. Let's just work on this last section here. So you can make a case for get this down here, for this to be the ABC of the four before we come down to, we literally have a to the tick double bottom, at least here on Binance. So let me open this. So such a big drop here. I got to reset it here a little bit. Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's put that right smack in the middle here. So we have a potential, just a perfect tag of a double bottom that would give us our 5 here. Now it's a little bit of a push on the 5th there, but because we've broken so far here and we have this nice looking, well, it is a diagonal. Note the overlap here, so you got to take that into account. That there's the wave 1, if that's, again, assuming that's correctly identified here, this is, I would call that a bit of a tell that is likely the 4, even though we do break. So you have to think of it now as a leading diagonal. The 5th here as an ABC certainly accommodates that. May go down even lower here. Let's go to the 1 hour. Okay, so here's, boy, it's, see, that looks like the 5 of the 3. And then this, it's a bit of a push here to get 5 in there. You know, you're gonna have to go down to the 5 or a 10 minute to dig it out there, but it's there. It's doable. You can get the substructure. So you have, it's, but the 4 to the 2 is a little bit harsh. I mean, maybe you could do it this way. All right, so then you'd have another diagonal again. So you'd have to reorient it. So I had it here initially. To avoid the diagonal, it's a bit of a judgment call. So then you might say, well, shit, why does it matter here? Where the way after we've got that? Well, I hear you on that. You're just trying to see, you'd have more confidence in this pivot if this shaped a bit better. But we can hold here and avoid the overlap here that you'd have to incorporate and trade this as an ending diagonal. It's not great structure. So the big 1, the 2, you'd be looking for the 4. Yeah. All right, let's go with double bottom here and not get caught up over here. This is where it gets interesting. Now, same thing, same. Actually, it may orient you more towards this. We're going to finish with an ending diagonal, so then we could go A, B, C and finish that. And it ain't pretty, no matter how you slice it. Now here, there's a way to trade this. We could go here. We could put the 1 here to accommodate the idea that this was an A, B, C into the B, so maybe we had an expanded flat. Well, I think you're stretching a little bit there. So this looks like a perfect 4. So even if you go here, that could work. You still have to allow for a flat. So you'd have to go. It's a little bit of a. See, if that's 4, you'd have, you can't do it. Nope, you got to go with a diagonal. It's too much of a force fit. That's the 5. So you'd have to go 1, 2, well, let's label it. You'd have to do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me get that down. Hang on. Oh, come here. Let's go down to sub-micro there. Okay, so that looks like a better case for the 1. So you have these wicks overlapping, so you have to trade it. So this would have to be your A. You've got some complexity in the B. So you'd have to go A, B, C into the B, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the C. So I like this better as the 1. So there, so thus you have a diagonal. No other way to shape it. So perhaps you'd have to do it so your 1 would have to reshape. We don't need to get caught up in that. Let's focus over here on the right edge. Okay, so we've got some pretty good support and resistance levels here. We can see how many times these are getting tested and retested. Come here. All right, so maybe that is the pivot here. So we come right in the little pocket here of these wicks, and that's where we find, likely this is where we're finding our 4 here. So we'd finish, we'd have to finish this as an ABC to stay with that diagonal. So ABC gives us the 5. Come here. That would give us that 5 there. So let me take that down a degree so it makes sense. So all right, so what we're looking for as we've got a diagonal, we're looking for something technical between the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3. Do we get something technical? Right? Where are you looking for it? You're looking for it at the 50. So once again, now just because the trading's not great in crypto, obviously there's still algorithms in here, right? So there's the buy at the 50. They take it right to target. That's about a 2-cent front run on the target and roll it over, right? So we have a clear, you don't like the Elliott or you don't like the count there. Swing low, swing to a swing high. I mean, it's damn near to the tick. Right to the 50, pop to the algo target. Okay, so we have something that likely has completed. And then you can see we're coming down here that looks like maybe there's an A, B, and C still going in. So let me get this all the way up here. So we know we have a technical pivot up here, and likely that is done. So let's get the degrees in alignment here. So we'd be looking for that as a completed 1. 2 looking to go in, 3, 4, and 5. We got to put them somewhere, but let's go to green, and we'll go up a degree. All right, so bear with me. Okay, so there's a contender here. So knowing that we have a candidate here for a motive wave off the low, albeit it's a diagonal, unless you want a fudge fit. I like it as a diagonal. We finish that. Let me get that right on there. Okay, so we're looking down here, but anywhere between the 50 and the 618. Conveniently, we've got the point of control and all of this market acceptance down here. So you've got a nice, fat, juicy range here to be looking for a buyer. It's like penny stocks, right? So we're here at 24 cents. Call it 24.88. Anywhere in this range. I wouldn't go beyond that, or just percentage loss, and especially if you're trading with leverage, no need to go beyond the 65. Now, if it breaks the 65, not that I wouldn't look again down here, but I would be I would want to see a little bit more confirmation. I might look for something like that, so I feel better about where the risk is. Because if you're a buyer here, just blindly, well, you better love the subdivision. You better see some divergence on that C, on the 5th of the C coming down here. So you got to have all the ingredients there to be a buyer down here. 786, this is always a push. Come on, TradingView. Always a push to try and break to get to these lows, because we know, or we don't have to wonder, there'll be a ton of stops sitting underneath there. So that's always what the push is. Why you see a 2 will go that deep. They're pushing to get to these lows. But as of yet, right, so now this just looks like there's a fairly decent setup here. Let me get this teed up. So for an ABC to be in, now we'd want to, of course, let's open that up and check that B. That looks fairly like it may be technical. So just looking, do we have an algo on the other side giving us a target that we could work with? So here's they've already hit the first target. So here's a perfect sell at the 50. They're to and through target. Now maybe they're going to second target, which would be, so we get a little confluence down here. So this could be 1, 2, 3, the 4 of the C of the 2 could very well be going in. So the anticipation might be that we've got this playing out as looks like we might be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4 going in, down for the 5. So you get something along those lines would give us a solid C here. So we could be, you could be aggressive there at 24.75 ish for a potential buy there. And risk is reasonably low. So here's your prior low down here at 18 cents. So you can, at these prices, it's you don't want to. It's always percentage. It's about percentages, not oh man, I bought it at 25 cents. It's put it in percentage terms, or just ignore that. Sometimes the better thing is not think about oh shit, it's 25 cents. What's the big deal? Trade it as a technician. Are we invalidating counts? Is this a valid setup? Whether this was $25 or $2,500 or 25 cents, it doesn't matter. You should trade it the same way. Do we have a technically valid setup here? Do we have all of the ingredients? Can we establish a probability zone? Well, we certainly can. We've got nice confluence here between the second algo target and the 50 point of control just below. So you've got a nice little range down here to be looking to be a buyer. Of course, if we get something like that and we have the nice subdivision here, you'd certainly want to get some median lines on this. So partly there, partly something like that. So you got a couple of things here. So all of this potentially goes much higher if we're going to start to get a good size move here, and that may be getting ahead of ourselves. All right, this icon gonna go off on a tear on its own. Well, yeah, nothing says it can't, and certainly you'd like to see Bitcoin come out of its range to get more enthusiastic about the alts, but we certainly have a valid technical setup here. So that is, I look at that. Now, there was one other thing to show you here, and I show it more as educational. Just to remind you that you got to look. You got to. Sometimes it's looking where other people wouldn't be looking. So let me take this off here. So one of the questions you have here is, well, why do we stop there? So I've got a little confluence here that I can add to that. So we have the perfect, right, as I showed it, from the swing low here through the pivot of the 3. All right, so let's just confluence here. So we've got a perfect algo target. I think as I was looking through potential candidates here, we get right on there. Okay, so that's, I mean, I can't, right, that's about as good as it gets. All right, so in terms of, all right, so but that may not be the one that you look for. Right? So you've got to be a little bit creative. You want to look in places where other people wouldn't be looking. So is that wacky? Not really. Right? That's certainly a place to be looking. Right, so we get a double bottom down here, so that the angle here, my eye will see that fairly quickly. So I knew it was a place to look there, but that is just as technical as it gets. So don't be just off on a rant about how shitty the trading is in crypto. There's still technical trading in here. The algos didn't leave, so we still have just perfect confluence. I mean, there are coins that are moving here, but what did we move from 23 cents to we got to 31 cents? Well, shit, again, percentage return. If you traded that with leverage, good for you. But did you know to be looking to get out there? Well, it's like, of course, always easy in hindsight. You put it together. Oh, there it is. Why didn't I look? Well, you didn't look because you weren't checking. That's part of it. I'm not saying you didn't. Maybe you caught that just right. Maybe you had that dialed up. But if you didn't, there's a good example of building a case for a pivot. So if you were long off of that, the algo target alone should have been something to have you, if you're trailing with a stop, or at the very least taking a partial. Because if that's going to complete as a 1, the expectation is the next trade will be at the 50, i.e., depending on where you bought it, you're going to give back a good percentage of your gain here. Now, that doesn't mean that it couldn't come and now kick up into the 3 and you've got a home run on your hands. It's just there, while crypto stays in effect going sideways, despite in a percentage term here, we've got a little mini trend, if that's the 5. There's enough to suggest that would be at the very least a place to take a partial profit, right? And if you're going to stay with it, well, here's your reload zone. Now let me get this off of here because we're not there yet. So if that's AB, looks like there could be one more kick. So you've got a little structure here to be looking at as well. So just looking left, well, you could do it a couple of different ways. You got a few spots here that kind of on top of each other. Oh, listen, look at that. As that lines up right ahead of so here's where all the market acceptance is. We get this little low volume node here. So if we're going to come down here and tag and push off of that, Well, there is definitely a trade here. So you could certainly look. So there, you could have a revisit here. So we tagged it perfectly with an algo target here. No reason to assume that that wouldn't be a valid target here. You want to see what the reaction looks like down here at the 50. We certainly have the structure. We have the wave count. We have the swing low, swing high. We have a perfect algo setup. You know there'll be participation there. Doesn't mean it'll hold, but there'll be participation. And then we've got all of this structure down here at the golden zone too. So this is not a bad place to be looking. You know, if you're going to stay focused on crypto, I'd maybe first entry here, second entry here, stop. Well, I'd give it a little cushion on the other side of the 65, knowing that we could go down and test that 786. But you'd like to see this lower trend line here, given the perfect tag here. You'd like to see this hold. So if it's going to come down here, and we're going to finish that C right here, yeah, I would still be a buyer there, because look how low that you'd be a buyer at, let's call it 23.44, a stop at 22.21. Yeah, I mean, a reasonable low cost trade there. Now you'd likely be using some leverage there. You don't need to get crazy, but there's potential. That's not a bad looking single there. I wouldn't swing for the fence, but understand that you're potentially putting yourself into the 2 of the 3 of the, well, if you'd be buying the 2 of the, looking for the move into the 3 of the 1 of the larger degree. So we have a motive wave here for a 1, but considering how far we've fallen, this could easily just be, if this completes and we go up and we get this 5th and we get a completed count here, likely just the 1 of the next degree higher. So long way to go if it's really gonna go here, but certainly good technical trading here. All right, so I'd be eyeballing this. I'd watch. Let's look for that appropriate subdivision into that C. I'd certainly want alerts to be triggered as we approach that 50, and I'd be looking for the first half of my trade there at the 50, and I'd be looking to add on a slight front run of the 60 at the 618 at the golden zone. Stop underneath it. You know, use your own money management rules here as to how much you're going to give that. So I wouldn't use the absolute low down here. Have a point where you say, okay, I'm wrong. I'll wait. I'll let this thing base. We'll reestablish a pivot down here. Do we get a technical pivot? If I do, then I can start again. But this, if you didn't catch this, well, that's okay, because despite the fact that it was perfectly technical, it lets you lean more into the retracement for the 2. So you can be a little more confident because we have a completed motive wave coming off of that double bottom low. Ideally, this trend line holds, but there's an opportunity setting up there. All right, have at it, but keep a stop on it. All right, guys, talk to you later.